Picture this. You create a character with a touching backstory, a powerful resolve, a phenomenal design that showcases how they're overcoming their past struggles, all while they mesh so beautifully with the rest of your game's cast. So you take that and brutally mishandle them in times that are supposed to deepen the character and their connection with the protagonist. That's what happened with Ann Takamaki in Persona 5. This analysis of Ann is just one of the many videos I plan to release talking about the characters of Persona 5, so if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe and stick around for the next video in the series. We're introduced to Ann on the first day of school, where she reluctantly accepts a ride from Mr. Kamoshida in order to avoid the rain. At this point in the game, there are rumors swirling about the nature of her and Kamoshida's relationship, something that is all too common in the real world. Someone in higher authority taking advantage of someone underneath them for sexual favors. It happens all the time and it's sadly rarely reported. Through cutscenes looking more at Ann's life, we learn that she became close to Kamoshida in order to spare her best friend, Shiho, from abuse from the volleyball coach, while also granting her a starting role for the team. In addition to the rumors spreading about her, she's also ostracized from the larger Shujin Academy community due to her being of mixed ethnicities. Later moments in the game reveal that students only really talk to her when they need help with their English, leaving her only friends to be Shiho and the Phantom Thieves. There's a really powerful moment early on in the game where you find her breaking down in the subway station after a heated call with Kamoshida. She reveals her reasons behind putting up with his abuse for so long. She claims that Shiho is the only thing left for her at Shujin, and that's why she needs to continue to abide by Kamoshida's every word. Well, when she finally stands up to him, he takes his frustrations out on Shiho. We don't get to see the extent of what he does, but it results in her attempting to take her own life by falling off of the roof of Shujin Academy. This is all within the first 5 hours of the game. And while Ann may have been reluctant to your efforts in changing Kamoshida's heart, from this point on, she is set on taking revenge on him with you, Ryuji, and Morgana, and she won't take no for an answer. So once she awakens to her persona, Carmen, she is an incredibly valuable asset to the Phantom Thieves with her fire type and stat boosting moves. Ann's Phantom Thief appearance and persona are probably the most telling of her character compared to any of the other Phantom Thieves. In the metaverse, she sheds her standard school clothes and replaces them with a red latex suit, thigh-high boots, and a Panther mask to go along with her weapon of choice, a whip. While most people can point to Atlas attempting to sexualize her character for the fans, I don't believe this is the only reason behind this design. As we know, she suffered through Kamoshida's abuse, so in my opinion, I feel this is a display of her trying to regain and be in control of her sexuality. Her persona, Carmen, also supports this idea. Carmen is based on the opera by the same name that follows a woman well versed in the art of seducing men. I think this is indicative of Ann taking back her sexual nature from Kamoshida, who sought to take advantage of that, considering Ann is the stereotypical bombshell blonde. Throughout Kamoshida's palace, Ann shows a lot of strength and resilience by powering through some pretty traumatic stuff. His palace has shrines for the girls that he's abused, the most recent of which being Shiho. Ann even holds herself back from killing his shadow, which would have killed him in the real world. She did this so that he wouldn't be able to avoid the consequences of his actions in the real world, arguing that he needs to turn himself into the police after the coach admits his crimes to the whole school. After Kamoshida's palace, she kind of takes a back seat as more of the members of the Phantom Thieves get introduced. Ann meshes really well with Ryuji since the two have known each other since middle school, and both have some funny moments together. Her love of sweets can often be seen in cutscenes where the Phantom Thieves talk about food, something that most models wouldn't even dream about, but not Ann. I also love moments in the story where you just sit around with her and the rest of the Phantom Thieves and gossip. It really helps to support the idea that the Phantom Thieves are actually friends, not people who just spend time together for work. Ann may not like to admit it, but she cares a lot for the members of the Phantom Thieves. She seems to take Ryuji's supposed death the hardest, since the two have known each other for quite some time. While originally being hostile towards Makoto for being the student president who's investigating the Phantom Thieves, she's understanding as to how Makoto was forced into this position, and the two develop a close bond, being the only two girls in the group for a while.
Yeah? Come on!
Looks like you need help.
Then why don't you go buy me a towel already, huh?
Due to her introduction so early in the game, Ann is the earliest romanceable option you can pursue. It can help provide some great moments when the two of you hang out alone. Hawaii, for instance, shows that she can be a great partner with how much she values the time the two of you spend together.
I told Shiho I wasn't into this cheesy dating stuff. But now that I've actually tried it out, it's really not that bad. I guess it's because I have someone special to do it with. Thanks.
Researching for this video, I found a lot of sweet moments when you choose to romance her that I actually haven't seen in game since I always go for other options. If that's all there is to her, then why am I making the claim that her character was poorly handled? Her confidant is where things get interesting. To even begin it, you need to have level 2 kindness, since she's still recovering from the events caused by Kamoshida. She comes to you with the goal of making her heart stronger for 2 purposes: to be there for Shiho as she recovers both physically and mentally, and in order to strengthen her persona, since she's come to the conclusion that a strong heart will lead to a stronger persona. A fair assessment to make. Her confidant starts with Ann asking you to insult her so that she can strengthen her heart. But the problem is, midway through, Atlas decides to throw in Ann's modeling career and the rivalry she has with an older model in the industry. Ann does modeling as a little hobby. She doesn't really put any effort into it, but she books a lot of gigs due to the way she naturally looks. Her rival begins to use underhanded tactics to steal jobs away from Ann, and instead of getting frustrated with how slimy her rival is, she gets upset because the girl has a stronger resolve than her? Ann says that Mika possesses a lot of the characteristics that villains from her favorite childhood shows had, stuff like charisma and confidence. Ann actually begins to admire those aspects of Mika, not taking into account how the girl is lying and cheating on out of jobs. Ann's 9th ranked confidant ends with her strengthening her friendship with Shiho, as the two are able to better understand each other's mindsets while Kamoshida took advantage of them. And I would have loved for this to have been the final rank. But her confidant actually ends with her regaining the spot she once had as one of the top models. But this time it's different since she actually worked for it, adding more to that whole strength argument. While it's nice to see Ann put her efforts towards something she has a rekindled passion for, the modeling side plot was really unnecessary to her goal of becoming stronger. Ann already goes through one of the most traumatic events of the game, and during my playthroughs I was looking forward to how she would improve herself to be a better rock for Shiho, who's still in recovery, mind you. They tried to juggle too many things during Ann's confidant, and it kind of makes you forget about Ann's original goal regarding Shiho once she moves on to all the modeling stuff. Maybe instead of all the modeling stuff, they could have had Ann come to terms with what happened between her and Kamoshida and the rumors surrounding that. I find it really hard to believe that she was just completely fine in that aspect mere days after Kamoshida turned himself in. With how her confidant is structured, it feels like this could be 2 separate characters, since there's no consistent storyline that we see advance through each rank. But Persona 5 Royal, like every other Phantom Thief, helps flesh out her character a lot. In Persona 5 Royal, you're put into a world where all the members of the Phantom Thieves have their deepest desires granted. Ann's is for Shiho to never have suffered abuse at the hands of Kamoshida, an undoubtedly good thing. This throws an important variable into the question that Persona 5 Royal asks the player to grapple with. Is pain and suffering ultimately needed in the world? While I feel that everyone can agree that a world where Shiho didn't make an attempt on her own life is fantastic, through that one action, it led to so much growth between Ann and Shiho that wouldn't be there without that one terrible thing taking place. Breaking Ann out of this reality is probably harder than any other Phantom Thief, since she watched as her friend fell from the roof of Shujin. She saw how her refusal to serve Kamoshida led to her best friend suffering an even worse fate. But we also saw in her Confidant that Shiho doesn't blame Ann, that she's grown from this experience as well, and that the two of them need to continue to be strong for each other. You can't really compare this to Morgana becoming human, since he's not actually losing anything by rejecting this false reality. Ann has to turn away from her friend, who's actually happy, who didn't suffer abuse at Kamoshida's hands, really making the player question that if it were possible to remove pain from the world, would it be a good thing? In the end, the false reality is abandoned, and we're back in the world where Ann and Shiho were impacted by Kamoshida. It gets overlooked so easily since all of the Phantom Thieves have to abandon their perfect world, but it would be nice just to have a conversation about Ann feeling guilty with her decision. But now, it's time to say goodbye. Being one of the earliest people you've met once you arrived in Tokyo makes saying goodbye to Ann really difficult, especially if you chose to date her. Looking past the flaws in the way her Confidant was arranged, Ann is a character who cares deeply for the people she's closest to. She's a lot deeper than the stereotypical pretty girl that Atlas wrote her to be, being insightful, funny, and downright badass at times. She has one of the strongest resolves in the Phantom Thieves, given everything that she's been through, and I think she's a valuable ally and a great romance option if that's who you're partial to. If you enjoyed this look at Ann, please be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about her character down in the comments below. I'll see you all next time when we take a look at another great Phantom Thief, Yusuke Kitagawa.